It's a very good job that I'm filming this video from this angle because my bedroom is such a fucking mess right now. There is a reason that it's a mess. It's not just me being lazy. There is an actual purpose. It's because I'm getting a new wardrobe, right? My wardrobe at the minute, it's here. I've actually got my camera attached to it so I can do that. But this wardrobe is a pain in the arse. It's a genuine antique one, but the problem is, if let's say the wardrobe is this wide, yeah, the wardrobe is this wide, the door is like that in the middle. Like these two panels at the very end, they're about this big either side, and they don't open. So if you want to get to the clothes in the very corners of the wardrobe, you just can't, and it's so annoying. I am ready to bash this wardrobe with a fucking hammer because it's so aggravating to try and get any clothes out of it. So I just went to an antique shop and I bought a new one. It's a new old one, it's a new antique, but it's new to me, but it's an antique. Fucking hell, that's what I was trying to say. That's getting delivered probably in a couple of days. So and they're going to take this old one away as well. So I'm not bothering to tidy up until that time comes, because obviously in order to get this old wardrobe out, I need to take all my clothes out of it, and all my shoes are in the bottom bit of this as well. So in other words, it's going to be a nightmare and everything's going to turn into a mess as soon as I try. So I'm just going to do it all at once, you know. I'm just going to wait for them. That's my excuse. Do you like my son? I bought him at the same antique shop because he was giving me sad eyes. So for this video he can stay there. He doesn't have a name yet. Anyway, point is, today I am going to talk about sewing and why it's horrible. Maybe it's only horrible to me because I don't actually know how to sew. I know how to sew, but I've never been formally trained. I just kind of bought a sewing machine and figured it out. So if you actually know what you're doing, sewing might not be so horrible, but because I'm just making it up as I go along, it's kind of awful. I'm not wearing this tape measure around my neck because I was doing a video about sewing. I'm wearing it because I went to view all the wardrobes, and I obviously wanted to make sure it fit, but it seemed relevant and it's kind of fashionable, so we will keep that there. I sew more for cosplay purposes than I do for fashion purposes, because as much as I'd love to make my own clothes, I just kind of stick to the cosplay side for it because I can buy clothes and alter them. So my dog is standing at the door and whining at me. Come in! Come in! Look what you made me do. I don't know why she was just sitting there whining at me and not coming in. Yeah, that's what I thought. Sit down, put your bum down. And the second I bring my dog in, she leaves. Useless. Anyway, where was I? I always try and alter things where I can instead of sewing from scratch, because sewing from scratch is so much harder because you've got to make sure it fits you. But if you buy, let's say, a dress and alter it to make it look more like the character's costume, it's so much easier because you've already got like a base to work with. So that's what I did for, let's use magenta for an example. I just bought a plain black dress and I added the collar, I added the cuffs, I added like buttons and the split. So much more easier, and that's what I try to do for most of my costumes, unless it's hyper specific. Like for example, my nation. I've been talking about my cosplays a lot in my recent videos, haven't I? Anyway, my nation, that costume is so specific. Like, it's a very specific colour, specific cut, specific fabric. It needs to be shiny. There's so much going on with it. I knew I had no hope of altering something to look like the dress. I did try to do that the first time actually, because I've remade that costume. The first time I made my nation cosplay, I edited a dress I already had because it was like a similar colour. It wasn't the right fabric and it had a bit of a pattern on it, but it was close enough that it started annoying me that it wasn't completely accurate. So I just went on a hunt for some fabric and made it from scratch. Now, first of all, you go to the fabric shop and you get a nice pile of fabric and you overpay for it most probably, because I don't know about you guys, but every time I go to Abercrombie Fabrics, I always buy too much fabric because I'd rather have too much than not enough. And every single time I'm left with so much spare fabric that I definitely always overbuy by at least half a yard, maybe a yard. I normally overbuy by a yard. Like, there's something wrong with me. I need to just learn how to measure better, probably, so I'd stop wasting money, but oh well. Then you take it home, and I don't know how you're meant to do. I know you're meant to like make a paper pattern, but I tried that once and it was awful, so we're not doing that shit again. What I tend to do is, let's say I'm making a dress. I take a dress I already have and that fits in kind of a similar way that I'd want this new one to fit, and I lay it on the fabric and I like kind of trace around that as a pattern, which works for me, I guess. And you cut it out, and that's the scary bit, because if you do it wrong and it's too small or whatever, then you know that you can't really fix it that easily. So that's the scary part of, oh shit, I might have just wasted all my money. I have actually sewn entire dresses by hand before. Prime example, my Mother Gothel, which I will not be inserting photos of because I don't have any decent ones. I'll see if I can find some, but I didn't have a sewing machine when I made that, so I literally just, sorry, I need to move. I just got the fabric and a needle, like a needle and thread like they do in 1847, and I just sewed it by hand, like the entire thing. I sewed it by hand, and it took forever, and by the end of it I was losing the will to live, but it works. It does work, it just takes ages. The problem I have with sewing machines is I don't think mine's broken, but I think I'm just shit at using it. Because what seems to happen is I'll be sewing fine for like half an hour, say, and then for another half an hour, every time I try and use it, it'll just get unthreaded. And no matter what I do, if I rethread the machine like 6 times, it just keeps coming unthreaded and I won't be able to sew anything. And then at some point, out of nowhere, just starts working again. I really don't know why. I don't know why it does that, but I have a few theories in mind because I've tried to research it. So next time I sew, I'm gonna try and figure it out. But it's so frustrating when you just want to sew one straight line and the machine just will not cooperate with you. And I don't know how everyone else does things, but there's this thing I've heard people do. It's called procrastination. I don't do that. I know this isn't very relatable, but I think this might be an autistic thing. I'm not too sure. But if I say I'm going to sew something, I will have it done by that night, because I know for a fact that if I put it down and say, oh, I'll come back to it tomorrow, I just won't. Unless like I need to finish it for a certain deadline. It'll stay there forever and it'll never get finished. So I always need to finish it on that day. If I start sewing at 4 p.m. that day, I don't care if I'm sewing till 4 a.m. in the morning. I am not stopping. I am until I finish. Which means I don't even like stopping to go to the bathroom, have a drink, have something to eat. Who needs human functions, you know? You just got to sew your way through it until the end, which isn't the healthiest way to do it, but that's how I do it. But if I have to be interrupted by something while I'm sewing, I am always so incredibly pissed off about it. Like, I remember one time, I needed to go shopping. I just needed to go food shopping, and I knew that day was the only day that I could go. But the entire time I was so annoyed because I knew that I just wanted to get back and finish my project. Then I don't know about everyone else, but again, if you sew in a stupid way that you're not meant to, like me, sometimes when you wear the outfit, it just doesn't fit right. I didn't explain that properly. I mean, it might fit, it will fit because that's how you made it, but it's not as, let's say, comfortable as other like store made, professionally made clothes are. Like, again, prime example, I'm gonna use my nation costume again, because as good as that looks in person, actually I made it a little too tight in like the hip region. I mean, obviously it does fit and I don't really have much of an issue with it, but TMI, if I go to the bathroom and I need to like pull the skirt up, it's kind of hard to get up and down. You've got to like proper like shimmy into it because it's not a stretchy fabric either. So great, but the only way I know to fix that would be to make it from scratch again, and it's not that big of an issue that I'm willing to do that for. So I'm willing to put up with things like that for cosplays, because you don't really spend that much time in the costume. Like, you go to the event for a couple of hours in the costume and then you're done. But this is why I don't tend to sew that much of my actual clothes from scratch. I'll definitely alter things. I alter things all the time, but sewing actual clothes from scratch, I don't do it as often, purely because of that specific reason. Like, another example, I made ages ago a waistcoat, and it fits me because I made it to fit myself, but it doesn't stay down. Like, it rides up quite a lot, and the only way I can get it to kind of stay down is to safety pin it. So it's not as well made as a professional item of clothing would fit me, which is, you know, until I get better at sewing, I'm just gonna have to avoid sewing things like that. But I think that's all I have to say on that topic. If anyone has any tips for sewing and to help me not be stupid when I do it, please let me know, because that's a problem with sewing. People know that I do it and they see from a distance what I make, and they think that I'm like really professional and good at it, and people keep asking me to like alter their clothes or make them clothes, and I'm like, I'm not that good. I'm not being modest, I swear. I'm not a modest person. I'm really not as good as you think I am. Anyway, I think that's it. Goodbye.